Women and children bear the brunt of these things. But unfortunately, the law as it is does not protect them.
I have this strong aversion when it comes to men, like this strong hatred for them.
If you can move above the shame, if you can rise above the guilt of what has happened, because truly, it is not your fault.
In the heart of West Africa, a silent epidemic is spreading its toxic roots, leaving countless lives shattered in its wake. This is the story of image-based sexual abuse in Nigeria, a digital menace that disproportionately preys on women and girls, leaving them scarred, violated, and silenced. It's also a story of resilience, empowerment, and the urgent need for change. Image-based sexual abuse, popularly known as revenge porn or non-consensual intimate image sharing, is a sinister crime that involves the distribution of explicit images or videos without the consent of the victim. To truly understand the magnitude of this issue, we must first unmask it.
Advances in technology have transformed and expanded the ways in which sexual violence can be perpetrated. One of the newer manifestations of violence and abuse is the non-consensual creation and or distribution of private sexual images. Image-based sexual abuse refers to a combination of any of these three key behaviors. One, non-consensual creation or taking of private sexual images, and this includes AI-altered images or deepfakes. Second, the non-consensual distribution or sharing of such images. And third, threats to share those private sexual images. This is a pervasive issue due to the easy perpetuation, that is, the ease with which those nudes or sexual images can be created, shared, uploaded, downloaded, and also the difficulties associated with removing those images once they are online.
Late March 2023, deeply shocking allegations of revenge porn surfaced against a certain Tedu Oluwadara Bendega at Lere SLVT on Snapchat and on Twitter. According to another Twitter user going by the name Nma at the Nma on Twitter, Tedu, her ex-boyfriend, tried to blackmail her with explicit pictures and videos of herself after they had broken up. This was so Nma wouldn't expose his illicit trade, the distribution of sexual images, pictures and videos of women and girls on pornographic channels via Telegram without consent. Once Nma spoke out, other women also began to allege that they had been Tedu's victims. It is not clear if any of these women sought justice formally. In July 2023, a Lagos-based businessman accused of circulating nude pictures of single mothers whom he had previously had relationship with on social media was arrested by men of the Lagos State Police Command. He would take those images while having the women under the influence of drugs he mixed in their drinks and afterwards blackmail them with the images. One of his victims had attempted suicide after the abuser sent her images to her church WhatsApp group. The case has been charged to court.
That night, I was making use of my laptop to do some stuff on the laptop. So my phone kept ringing and I picked and I was like, but we don't have anything like going on between us again. Well, and you said, well, okay. And the next thing he was like, I'm proving stubborn, I'm acting stubborn. And he ended the call. He sent me a text message saying that I'm not picking up, that I'm proving very, very stubborn, that he's going to show me what he used to senior me. That was how he put it in the WhatsApp message. So I didn't say anything. I just continued working. And the next morning, I noticed that he removed his WhatsApp DP and put one of my nude pictures as his WhatsApp DP on his display picture on WhatsApp. So I saw it and I started crying. And then he also posted some on his WhatsApp status and was sending me comment people were making about my body. He started sending me like the screenshots. So
so it doesn't actually matter. And that's where most people get it, twisted. It doesn't really matter that the images were taken with consent. So for instance, a victim before the sharing of the image took the images consensually, or had you take the images consensually, even shared it with you consensually, but then you share it to the public or you share it to another person, a third party, without consent. That's the crime. That's a crime.
I met an abuser who we met physically because he was staying at that time around my area. So we met physically. I think he came to my house 1 or 2 times. And yeah, a few of my family members knew about him. Also, then we got talking real well. We really got the bond going well physically until he requested we take a blood covenant.
We started looking into image-based sexual abuse in Nigeria more closely in 2020. And then in 2021, we launched a qualitative study to try to understand the lived experiences and psychological impacts of image-based sexual abuse on victims. One thing we found that stuck out like a sore thumb is that image-based sexual abuse in Nigeria is extremely underreported. Victims are sometimes ignorant that they can even report on the platforms where such is happening, and they are also very reluctant to talk about what has happened or what is happening to them, to anyone that they may know, or even to law enforcement. They blame themselves for the cruel actions of someone else. They deeply fear re-victimization or being slut-shamed by family, by society, or by police. They just want it to all go away somehow, and some even just want to die from profound shame and suffering. We found victims to be extremely anxious, depressed, having suicidal thoughts. Some of them have actually taken actions towards suicide.
Despite significant external social factors and internal psychological barriers preventing women and girls from often speaking up about or reporting violence and abuse, Nigeria's Demographic and Health Survey 2018 reported that 1 in 3 Nigerian women aged 15 to 49 in Nigeria have experienced physical or sexual violence. During the COVID-19 pandemic lockdown, Nigerian women ranked top 4 for the highest exposure to gender-based violence worldwide, as the percentage increased to 48%, amounting to almost 1 out of 2 women experiencing gender-based violence in Nigeria during the lockdown. It is against this backdrop the conversation on online gender-based violence in Nigeria is being discussed. On TikTok, intimate images of a popular TikToker, Molly, with about 500,000 followers were recently leaked. The video garnered millions of views from several blogs and had over 12 million views within 16 hours of release. She had been blackmailed, and her images released when she could no longer keep up after months of payment. Another victim, popularly known as Booba Girl, went viral in a video where she appeared to have been masturbating. It's not clear if Booba Girl paid her blackmailer, but he made good his threat in any case. This video also recorded well over 100 million views across social media and many blog sites in a short period. Some of the comments advised her to kill herself for being stupid or shameless.
For us in Nigeria, the increasing use of internet in particular in Nigeria, and of course, other African nations, has actually led to increase in various forms of cybercrime, which succession is actually one of them. The cybercrime trend is actually on the increase, considering, the kind of cybercrime that we have in Nigeria. Nigerian threat actors are known for, like the likes of business email compromise, romance scam, DDoS attack, phishing, social engineering, and succession. So looking at the trends, in succession trends in particular, where we have the common traditional succession and of course the financial succession, you see that it's actually on the increase. Now, before now, we don't have records of succession cases in Nigeria, but recently we started having the surge. This year we started noticing the surge. And of course, it's worrisome because we notice rise in the traditional succession and the financial succession, where the traditional one, where victims are asked to, produce more nude pictures, or else the ones they produce already will be exposed to the internet. And then sometimes some of them decline and it becomes a problem. And apart from that, we equally have the issue of financial succession that is actually ravaging our society now. And that is the one that most Nigerian cyber criminals are known for. Because what they do is to get, some of the nude pictures from their victims and start demanding for money. Of course, everything is about financial gain.
It's safe to say that women with disabilities are faced with double disability. First, on their accounts that they are women in a society like Nigeria, and also because they are persons with disability. A lot of persons with disability, most especially women with disability, face a lot of discrimination, and it makes them prone to being vulnerable.
Nigeria is a very culturally sensitive society, and abusers know this. They know that the victims of sexual-related violence in Nigeria are almost never forgiven for it, even though they are the victims. Apart from the lack of access to justice from law enforcement or from courts, society makes it harder for victims to go on and to live normal lives. They face prolonged ridicule, loss of reputation, loss of dignity and opportunities, as well as social isolation. Perpetrators of image-based sexual abuse, they know this and they use this to control and to blackmail their targets. The survivors that we talk to had experienced some type of loss related to educational or socioeconomic opportunities in form of expulsion or withdrawal from school, businesses, loss of jobs, and so on.
After the whole thing ended, I was still I felt very foolish. I felt used. I was heartbroken. I felt like I trusted the wrong person and all of that. And I wasn't going to school. I wasn't going to classes anymore. Like, nothing actually interests me. I was just home. I was not doing anything. Got to a point I was actually suicidal.
Social barriers constitute a huge constraint to victims seeking redress for image-based abuse online and the violation of their right to privacy. These include victim blaming, a pre-existing culture of impunity in relation to violence against women and girls, male peer group influence and support, rape supportive culture, economical disenfranchisement of women, the equation of masculinity with superiority, and equation of femininity with passivity and inferiority, and a sense of entitlement towards women's bodies. These psychosocial realities are based on prevalent and deep-rooted sociocultural norms within the Nigerian society and strengthen image-based sexual abuse.
One of the biggest challenges in offering justice to victims is offering or defining what real remedies look like, right? So you can go to court, or the state can prosecute the perpetrator and land him in jail or have him pay a fine, or you can, sue for breach of privacy and whatnot. But many times victims would say that it still doesn't solve the problem, because again, remember, we are in the internet or digital age, and many times these images, once shared online, just start circulating. People repost it. People repost it in terms of like retweeting the original post, but also in terms of taking it and republishing. And so that just multiplies, the hurt. And that then brings us to converse about internet intermediaries. And I think that's why that's one of the reasons why the recent legislation or subsidiary regulation, subsidiary code by NITDA, which is the National Information Technology Development Agency, was very, very, very important. Because once a complainant sends a message to the internet intermediary to say, look, I have this image of mine on your platform, I don't have it there with my consent, I need you to take it down. The code actually provides that the internet intermediary works within 48 hours to take it down.
Some of the threat actors that we've arrested here are actually underaged. Some of the suspects are actually underaged. You see, ages between 14, 12, 15, and just like the mentorship school we busted last 2 weeks. There was one we busted about 3 months ago, and last 2 weeks we busted another mentorship school in Nigeria here, and we discovered that most of those that have been trained to be cyber criminals are actually underage children. So it's actually worrisome, and of course and more of them are getting involved. Some of them are dropping out from school and getting into sextortion, to make quick, because of course, most victims, once some of them, they find it difficult to talk at the end of the day, So quick thing, 2 things: either some of them will commit suicide. We've not recorded any suicide in Nigeria, but I know in Australia, in America, and some other, countries, those that we've partnered, have told us of stories of victims that have actually committed suicide.
One of the major barriers I think we have to providing legal services to survivors of gender-based violence, whether it be physical or online or sexual, is at the reporting stage. The police station is not designed, should I say the architecture of the police station is not designed to support victims that walk through the door to make complaints in this regard.
When you report to a law enforcement officer that your image is being distributed, your nude image is being distributed online, and their response to you is also condemnation, as opposed to seeing it as a crime that it is and taking action on your behalf.
But I think the implementation of the act, of the VAP Act, is quite poor. If you look at the Appropriation Act, we do not have any budgetary allocation to gender-based violence. And I'll be sincere with you, criminal justice system is very, very, understand, I'm stressing it, very expensive. Let me give you a scenario. The first point of call, the police takes you to the hospital if it's sexual or physical, and they have to pay. Even police hospital, the police officer pays. From the time they reported, to the time it was investigated, to the time it went to court, it takes a minimum 4 months. And some even takes 8 months, 1 year, before it now finally gets to court. So beyond the technology facilitated, because by the time you put in what about perpetrators that are way younger? What do you do with those ones who have committed a crime? What do you do? If the adults should go to prison, what do you do to the child that is perpetrating it? Where do you confine them? Where do you send them to? Where do you get them? Where do they get help from? So it's bigger than we think it is.
It's important that a training for law enforcement officers is conducted, and it's not just conducted as a one-off, but there's a structure for it so that it becomes the culture of law enforcement in Nigeria. And so that's one. It's important to train the people who are to receive these complaints.
So because of that, the Inspector General of Police approved for us to train our frontline officers. Recently on fundamentals of cybercrime investigation, so that once they are confronted, when the victims confronts them, they should be able to do the visit, to help them. So it's not a hopeless situation as people think. It's not. So if you have any issues, still go down to the police station. The ones they cannot do, normally they used to escalate it to our level, and we've offered them, tremendous, support. We've helped a lot of them. And again, reporting through the e-reporting portal is free. It's free. Nobody will charge you money. The government provided the technologies and all this enabling environment for us to be able to work with. We're trying to change the narrative, whether you like it or not. Having all these things, it will be very sad to hear that one is paying money to be helped. I stand to be challenged. All the victims that we've helped, you can find a way and interview them. It's been free of charge.
When we started out, we wanted to focus on engaging policy and gathering evidence. But we soon discovered that there was a disturbing lack of support and lack of resources for victims or survivors. And we just couldn't ignore that. We couldn't get past that. In July of 2023, we convened over 60 organizations and stakeholders across the country, from government and regulators to private sector, civil society organizations, law enforcement, in a workshop that aims to strengthen digital protection for women and girls in Nigeria, taking into account global best practice models. The workshop was funded by the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office through its Digital Access Program in Nigeria, and was dedicated to developing a collaborative, multi-stakeholder approach to reducing digital harms as a major barrier faced by women and girls, and curtailing their use of digital technologies and broader participation in online spaces.
It's a wide range of experiences that survivors go through, from one extreme to the other. I've had survivors come where, the mother brought her child who was abused. But by the time we were done, it was the mother we were counseling, because 15 years ago, this has happened to her and she had not told anybody. She had not dealt with it, in any way. And she became the survivor that we're dealing with, because it felt like it happened yesterday. And that is why support is very key.